Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I was lucky enough to chat with Sarah Desjardins. You can see her currently on the YouTube Red series Impulse, where she plays Jenna Hope. She was previously on Project MC Squared, Imaginary Mary, and Van Helsing. We had a chat about her favorite projects, how fun it was to work with Doug Liman, what she likes about Impulse, and much more. I hope you enjoy.
Hi, Les. This is Sarah Desjardins calling.
Hey, thank you so much for taking out time to do the interview today. I really appreciate it.
Of course. It's beautiful here in Vancouver, too. And I just had a nice breakfast with my boyfriend on a patio before this. So I'm in a great space.
Ah, that's great. And you're from Vancouver, which I think most of my listeners would probably recognize as every American city on television.
Yeah, and just like every CW show that exists is shot here.
You've shot an episode of Supernatural, or done some work with Supernatural, and some of those shows. Was it fun kind of getting to go home to shoot?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm still based in Vancouver, so it's always nice to just get to hang out here and be, surrounded by my friends. We shot Impulse in Toronto. And it was my first time ever, moving for an extended period of time. We were there for 5 months. And I hadn't really been to Toronto before, so it was really cool. It was a new experience. I got to explore a new city, but it's always nice to be home and just be in a familiar space.
Yeah, Toronto's a city that I very unfairly, I've only been through the airport.
Yeah, before I went to film, I hadn't spent any time there really either, but I grew to love it. Initially, it's so much bigger than Vancouver, obviously, and that was a bit of a culture shock for me, but I ended up really growing to love it. So if I get to go back there to continue the show, that'd be awesome.
I think I just picture Scott Pilgrim, but that's my whole Toronto experience. It's just the background of that movie.
I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
It's probably a great advertisement for any city. Can you talk a bit about the audition and casting for Impulse?
Yeah, the process for me was quite interesting. So I actually originally auditioned for the role of Henry, which the beautiful, talented, amazing Maddie Hassan plays. And what had happened was I did a tape here in Vancouver, and I do remember feeling really good about it, which I don't always with projects I audition for. And I actually didn't hear anything for about 5 months, I think it was, because I think originally it was supposed to start shooting sooner, and it got pushed. And, yeah, I heard back, and they were interested in me for the role. So then I went down to L.A., and I met some of our wonderful producers. I met David Bartis and Jean Klein, and I had a session with them. And then what ended up happening was Maddie is ridiculously talented and amazing. And so she ended up getting the role of Henry, but I was so fortunate that everyone a part of Impulse still really liked me, and I got offered Jenna, which is Henry's stepsister in a sense. Our parents are a couple on the show.
Had you read any of the Stephen Gould books, the Jumper series or anything like that?
I hadn't read any of the books, but I of course had seen Jumper, which Doug Liman, who directed our pilot and produces our show, also directed. Yes, but our show Impulse is definitely in the universe of Jumper. Impulse is the same title as I believe the third book of Stephen's novels, but the characters are not the same. We don't have any of the characters from the Jumper universe directly in our show, but it's definitely the same universe.
Yeah, it sounded from reading the synopsis for the show that they had changed the plot, but I kind of love some of the updates to it, and I'm really interested to see what happens with it, especially coming off of Cobra Kai. I have a little more faith than I would have had a month ago with how good a YouTube Red show is going to look, and I feel like y'all are placed well.
That's so great. I'm so happy to hear that, and I'm glad to hear you like the updates, because it's something that all of us, a part of the show, are really proud of and happy with how things turned out. And yes, we're very fortunate that Cobra Kai came out when it did, and it's definitely given YouTube almost more leeway and given more chance, and they're being taken more seriously now, which is excellent, and obviously what they're going for as well.
Yeah, I know it's got to be scary knowing that you've made changes to source material and wondering how sacrosanct is this going to be uh, for the fan base. But even Doug Liman's Jumper movie made changes from the Jumper book universe. Did you have any expectations having seen his previous work going into working on the show? Was it exciting going in working with the director you might have seen before?
Yeah, it was definitely exciting. I love Born Identity. I saw The Jumper. Even if we go back to like Swingers with Vince Vaughn, yeah, I was definitely excited to meet Doug, and I'd heard so many good things about him, and he's just a very interesting person to meet, and I feel very lucky that I got to work with him.
I had read somewhere that that you got into wanting to act by having that moment of watching television and going, "Oh my God, that's someone's job. That's a job that I could go get."
I did, which seems like such a cliche, but it's true.
Do you remember what you were watching or what clicked?
I'm almost too embarrassed to say. Let's keep in mind that I think I was about 6 years old, but I believe it was Barney and Friends.
Oh, that's great. If it makes you feel any better, I had a moment when I was a kid of getting really, really mad that I had turned the television off when I left a room. And like 3 hours later, I turned another television on just in a different place where my parents had taken me. And I was furious that the show didn't pick up. Like, there's one show, I was watching it, I turned it off on the show, thing, and then we went to another place and I was furious. And my mom was like, "I can't explain this to you. Stop being mad about it." Like, that cartoon is not still on. And yeah.
I feel like I definitely had a moment like that when I was young also. It's just such a foreign concept when you're so young.
Yeah. Like, where are these things coming from? Who are these?
Yeah.
So watching Barney, you realize that adults make this, and I could get that job.
Yeah.
What helps sustain you during all the moments between then and now? I mean, there's auditions that I'm sure are grueling, and moments where you think, "Oh, everybody wants to do this," or "Can I do this?" Have there been moments in your career that you felt, "This is right, I'm doing this right"?
Yes. Well, I could say yes to both things. Like, of course, there are moments where you question yourself. It's such a hard business, and there's so much rejection. And as I truly acting and taking it seriously when I was 16, and I'm almost 20. And I feel like when I was younger, I was definitely harder on myself, and it took a lot more determination to push through. But honestly, getting a project like this, getting Impulse, is definitely something. It came at a time where I was getting a lot of traction on different material, but not getting anything in the end, and getting the show, and I'm so proud of it, and I really feel like it's such a strong project. That kind of felt like the confirmation that I'm doing this right and my hard work is paying off. But really, I think that what's kept me going, honestly, has been I take a scene study class here in Vancouver, and I just take it ongoing. And honestly, just training and working on your craft, it's kind of like how my teacher describes it is that, like, athletes are always training to be better in the sport that they're doing, and acting is the same way. And also, when I have that constantly keeping me busy and I'm improving based on that, it makes it so much easier to just keep going and stay committed.
Yeah, that makes sense, that it would be more sustainable to feel like that's your job, staying trained.
Yeah.
Than it is to wait to have some unseen hand assign you your job every once in a while.
Totally. All you can do is work on your acting and do the best that you can, and just trust that, and eventually the right person is going to recognize your work. It proves to be true time and time again.
You also did Project MC Squared.
I did.
It was a Netflix series. I don't know how much crossover it has maybe with everybody that's listening for Impulse, but did a huge amount, I felt, for being a positive STEM role model for kids in general, specifically for girls. Did you have a favorite moment on there? Your character got to have some great lines.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, what I just loved so much is that usually I tend to play very young, and I am on this show, but coming on to Project MC Squared, I got to be the all-knowing older sister, and I also got to be a spy. I mean, how awesome is that? Fulfilled my childhood dream. I was obsessed with Spy Kids when I was younger. But really, honestly, it was just great to, I love that I got to be such a positive role model for young girls. And it's so weird that there's this stigma that so many of these jobs are for men, and that's not true at all. And I just loved getting to be a part of that conversation. Also, all of the younger girls who play the leads of Project MC Squared are lovely people. And I just loved getting to know them. And by far, any project that I've been a part of, I get recognized the most for Project MC Squared. And honestly, just to see all these little girls who come up to me and are just awestruck that I'm in front of them just makes everything I've ever done worth it.
You've done the Clue update that I think Hub did a few years ago. You've done Van Helsing and Supernatural, and is there something that draws you to genre shows? Are these things you were a fan of when you were a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could say I was a fan of all of that, like these genres when I was a kid. But really, what I just love so much is that I've gotten the opportunity to do all these different genres. I've gotten to do drama, I've gotten to do sci-fi, I've gotten to do like kids, comedy. Really, all I can ask for is to be able to do all these different kinds of things.
I've read that you're a Gilmore Girls nerd yourself.
Oh, yeah. We could talk about that for as long as you want.
But I think the most recent thing or interview I'd read where anybody brought it up was before the revival had come out. What did you think of the revival?
I was so disappointed by the revival. I hate to say it. But I think, I'm trying to remember now, I do believe like Gilmore Girls is kind of what started the revival trend.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like one of the first ones who did that.
Yeah, I feel like they were one of the first. I mean, it's definitely in full swing now, but...
Oh my gosh, yes. But at the time, I was so optimistic, of course, because it was just my favorite show. I grew up watching it with my mom, of course. And I was just really excited, and I find it interesting that all of the core like members of the cast, crew, the producers were the same, the director, the writers, everything was the same. But it just, if I had to sum it up, it just felt so forced. I definitely felt like the show's tone back when it was airing was very effortless in the way that they executed everything, and it kind of felt like they were trying to like recreate the magic instead of continuing the magic almost. Yeah,
there's a you can't go home again thing when you try to do something like that. Did you watch Marvelous Miss Maisel?
I've actually haven't gone too far into it. I think I've watched the first few episodes. I really do enjoy it though. I liked it a lot, and it's almost like it's a similar kind of style because it's Amy Sherman Palladino.
Yeah.
But that one I definitely feel is again like a more effortless thing. I think it was more about with Gilmore Girls, the problem was like trying to recreate something. But now that Amy Sherman Palladino is doing something new, it's like back to the same tone that we know and love.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. Was like there's not a weight of any expectation on this.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have a movie in your credits that I just don't think enough people have heard about because the title is spectacular and it should be on everybody's tongues.
What is it?
Into the Grizzly Maze.
Yeah. Knew it would be that one.
Which I also, I guess, could have fit into my question of getting to stay in Canada to film. But that's just an absolutely goofy. I mean, the premise is it's not Sharknado silly, but it's giant bear chasing action movie with just an outlandish cast.
Oh, I know.
Was it odd? What was it like shooting that? Was it everybody on set at once, or how did it?
Yeah, so it's actually a crazy thing. I still get to be credited in that movie, but it was a long process making that movie, and that was one of my first jobs, I believe, that I got. Like it might have been my third or fourth gig, and I had 2 scenes in that, and they ended up getting cut because they're not quite essential to the story. But what I would say is that who I did get to work with was James Marsden, So when I was on set, it was just me and him. And he was a very nice guy, very professional. We got to improv a bit, which was really cool. I personally enjoyed working on it, but from my experience, it was one of the most grounded parts of the movie. And from what I heard, they ended up going back and reshooting the ending and reshooting a lot of plot points.
Yeah.
The title also changed a million times, so...
I really want to hear the meeting that got to Into the Grizzly Maze from...
Yeah, I don't know. When I was a part of it, it was called Red Machine, which is also something a grizzly bear is called.
Thank you for letting me bother you about that. I saw that on your IMDb and thought, I have to ask. There just has to be a story behind making Into the Grizzly Maze.
Yes, no. Honestly, David Hackle, who's the director, was great to work with. I enjoyed working with James, but unfortunately I can't provide further insight because I wasn't in the nitty-gritty forest with everybody else.
Have you had a favorite project that maybe wasn't as widely seen as you wanted, but was a great fun day for you on set?
Honestly, I did this movie a few years ago that was for kids. It was a family movie. And it was so silly, but it was just such a great time. It was called Archie. And it's about, a talking robot dog, as the usual. And Michael J. Fox voiced the dog, which is really cool. But we actually shot that movie for a month and a half in Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada. And it was just such a fun time. We were a close family, and also being in Regina, we just kind of all band together and would spend all our time together on and off set. And Robin Dunn, who wrote the movie, directed the movie, he starred in it with me as my uncle. People may know him from Sanctuary, which was a show that he was on that he's very well known for. Yeah, but I just had such a great time working on that movie. So anytime someone asks me that question, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But by far, of all the projects I've gotten to work on, I'm truly just so excited about Impulse.
That's great. I can't thank you enough for taking out the time to talk to me today.
Of course, Les. Thank you so much for talking to me.
I can't wait for Impulse. I was excited when I heard that they were going to continue on Jumper, much less that they got Doug Liman to come in and do it. And yeah, was really thrilled to have the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you so much. I think people are really going to enjoy it. It's very, it's much more grounded and real than I think everybody is going to expect. But that's what I love most about it. And the performances are so strong. The writing is good. And all I can hope for is that everyone is going to enjoy it. So watch it on June 6th.
Yes, everybody go watch it as soon as it's out.
Thank you so much, Les.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.